The detention center smelled like metal and fear. Commander walked through the long corridor with her head held high. Her purple skin gleamed under the bright lights. She was tall, nearly 8 feet, with 4 arms that moved with natural grace. Behind her, 2 guards followed closely. She stopped at the entrance to cell block 7. This was where they kept the humans. "Open it," she commanded. The door slid open with a hiss. Inside, rows of simple beds lined both walls. 30 humans sat or stood in silence. They wore gray uniforms that looked too big for their small frames, studied them with cold eyes. Humans were weak. Everyone in the Galactic Coalition knew this. Their planet had fallen in just 3 months. 3 months, some species fought for decades. But Earth, it crumbled like dry sand. "Attention," said in their primitive language. The humans stood up slowly. They looked tired. Their skin came in different shades of brown and pink. Their hair was black, brown, or yellow. Such strange variety for one species. Most of them stared at the floor. Walked between the rows. "You are prisoners of the Empire. You will work. You will obey. You will not cause trouble. Do you understand?" "Yes, Commander," they said together. Their voices were quiet and flat. She stopped in front of a female human. This one had dark hair tied back from her face. Her eyes were brown and empty of emotion. The identification band on her wrist read. "You said, what was your job on Earth?" Medic answered. Her voice was soft. "A healer," laughed. It was a harsh sound. "How fitting. Your whole species needed healing, but you failed. You are feeble creatures, soft bodies, short lives, weak bones. Your planet lasted barely 3 cycles against our scouts. Just scouts, not even our real military." Said nothing. She kept her eyes down. Moved on. She enjoyed this. Reminding them of their weakness made her feel powerful. She passed another human, a male with broad shoulders. His band said, "And you?" "Engineer," he replied. "Another useless skill. Your technology is centuries behind ours." She continued down the line. Every human looked the same to her, defeated, broken, small. She stopped at the end and turned to face them all. "You will be taken for medical scanning today. The Coalition wants to study you. Learn how such a weak species managed to spread across a whole planet. Maybe they will find something interesting. I doubt it." The guards began directing the humans out of the cell. They moved in a single line, quiet and obedient. Watched them go. Yes, they were definitely feeble. No spirit left in them at all. Later in the medical bay, observed the scanning process. Humans lay on flat tables while machines hummed over their bodies. The doctor, a 6-legged creature named, studied the results on glowing screens. "Fascinating," said. "Their bodies are full of old injuries, broken bones that healed, damaged tissue. This one has metal fragments embedded near her spine." Looked at the screen. It showed the human female from earlier. "Probably from their pathetic war," said. "They barely had proper armor." "Commander, you should see this," pointed at another image. It shows back in detail. Stepped closer. The human's entire back was covered in dark marks. Patterns and symbols covered her skin from shoulders to waist. Some were simple lines, others were complex designs, and beneath the marks the scanner showed something else. Scars, deep ones, burns, surgical cuts. "What is this?" asked. "Body decoration," said. "Many primitive species mark their skin with ink. They call it tattooing, quite crude." Stared at the images. The marks were actually quite detailed, beautiful in a strange way, but still primitive. Why would they damage their own skin? Cultural reasons, memory, belonging to groups. Humans are very emotional creatures. "Emotional and weak," said. "A bad combination." She moved to the next table. More scanning, more data. Most humans had these marks somewhere on their bodies. Some had many, some had few, all of them had scars. When the scanning ended, the humans were returned to their cells. Went to her office. She sat behind her desk and pulled up files on human history. The coalition had gathered much information during the invasion. She read about Earth's nations, their wars, their technology. Everything confirmed what she already knew. Humans were violent but weak. They fought each other constantly. They had primitive weapons. They lived short lives, barely 100 years. The report on Earth's surrender was brief. Human resistance collapsed after 90 days of conflict. Leadership surrendered unconditionally. Military forces laid down weapons. Total victory achieved. 90 days, such a short time. Closed the files. She stood and looked out her window. The detention center floated in space, a huge structure of metal and stone. Outside, stars glittered in the darkness. Tomorrow she would assign the humans to work details. They would clean. They would maintain equipment. They would do simple tasks that required no skill. It was all they were good for. She thought about the marks on their skin. So much effort to decorate such soft, weak bodies. It seemed pointless. But then, humans seemed to do many pointless things. In cell block 7, the humans prepared for sleep. They lay on their narrow beds in silence, stared at the ceiling. Her face showed nothing. But inside she was thinking. She thought about the marks on her back. Each one had a name. Each one had a story. Each one was a promise. The aliens thought humans were feeble. They thought the war was over. They thought wrong. Closed her eyes, she could wait. Patience was a skill she had learned well. Patience and memory. Humans were very good at remembering. Commander would learn this soon enough. 4 weeks passed. The detention center ran smoothly. The humans worked without complaint. They cleaned the corridors. They sorted supplies. They did exactly what they were told. Commander watched them every day. They never caused problems. They never talked back. They were perfect prisoners, boring but perfect. She sat in her office, reviewing reports when the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed. A loud siren wailed through the entire station. Jumped to her feet. "What's happening?" she demanded into her communicator. "Riot in cell block 3, a guard shouted back. "The prisoners have broken out. They have weapons." Cursed, they were dangerous. Big creatures with thick armor plates and bad tempers. There were 50 of them in block 3. "Seal all sectors. Send security teams immediately." She grabbed her weapon from the wall. It was a long energy rifle that could burn through metal. She ran into the corridor. Other guards rushed past her. Prisoners in nearby cells screamed and shouted. The alarm kept blaring. Headed toward the control center. She needed to see what was happening. But as she turned a corner, an explosion rocked the station. The floor shook, fell against the wall. Smoke filled the air. "Commander," someone yelled. "The breached the east sector. They're heading toward your position." Looked around. She was near cell block 7, the human block. Another explosion sounded, closer this time. "Fall back," she ordered into her communicator. "All units fall back to the control center." But when she tried to run, another blast tore through the wall ahead of her. Fire and debris blocked the corridor. She couldn't go forward. She turned to go back, but more explosions cut off that path too. She was trapped. Heard sounds behind a door to her left. Cell block 7, the humans. She had no choice. She opened the door and rushed inside. The humans stood in the center of their block. They looked calm, too calm. Commander said, "Are you lost?" "Be quiet," snapped. "There's a riot. Stay in this room and don't move." "We heard the explosions," said the male. "That's none of your concern." The door behind exploded inward. She spun around. 3 prisoners stood in the smoking doorway. They were huge, nearly 10 feet tall. Their skin was like gray stone. They carried stolen weapons and pipes. One growled, "Kill her." Raised her rifle and fired. The energy bolt hit the first in the chest. It roared but kept coming. Their armor was too thick. She fired again and again, but there were 3 of them. The first swung a metal pipe at her head, ducked. She was fast, but the creature was faster than it looked. A second blow hit her shoulder. Pain exploded through her arm. Her rifle fell from her hands. She stumbled backward. The humans were behind her now. She expected them to scream, to run, to hide. But they didn't. Moved first. She stepped past without hesitation. Her movements were smooth and fast. She picked up a broken piece of metal from the floor and threw it. The metal spun through the air. It hit the lead in the eye. The creature screamed and clutched its face. Moved next. He grabbed a metal support beam that had fallen during the explosion. He swung it like a club and smashed it into the second's knee. The joint bent backward with a crack. The creature fell. "Left side," shouted. Another human female ran forward. Hadn't paid attention to her before, but now she watched as jumped onto the third's back. The creature tried to shake her off but wrapped her arms around its thick neck. She twisted hard. The neck bone snapped like dry wood. It fell to the ground, dead. Stared in shock. The whole fight lasted maybe 10 seconds. Picked up a weapon from the fallen. She checked it with expert hands. Then she moved to the doorway and looked out. "More coming," she said. Her voice was still soft, still calm. "Take the left corridor approach. Check for alternate exits. Menu, grab weapons." 2 more humans moved immediately. They picked up the dead weapons without fear. "You," tried to speak. Her shoulder hurt badly. "You're soldiers." Glanced back at her. For the first time saw something in those brown eyes, something cold and hard. "We're what you made us," said. More appeared in the doorway. 5 of them. They roared when they saw their dead companions. The humans moved as one unit. They spread out. They used cover. They fired the stolen weapons with perfect accuracy. Watched in amazement. These weren't scared prisoners. These were trained fighters. They moved like they had done this 1,000 times before. Shot one in the throat. Smashed another with the metal beam. Slid under a creature's legs and stabbed upward with a sharp piece of debris. The fight was brutal, fast, efficient. When it ended, 5 more lay dead. The humans had minor cuts and bruises, nothing serious. Walked back to, "Can you walk?" "Yes," said. Her voice shook. "Then we need to move. This position is compromised." What are you?" "I told you I was a medic." Checked injured shoulder with quick professional hands. "Combat medic. I kept soldiers alive in battle, but that doesn't mean I couldn't fight." "But your planet surrendered so quickly." His expression didn't change. "We made a choice. Now we need to move. Can you contact security?" Tried her communicator, static. "The system is damaged." "Then we go to them." Turned to the other humans. "Standard formation. Protect the commander. She's more useful alive." The humans formed a protective circle around. They moved through the corridors like ghosts. Silent, coordinated, deadly. They encountered 2 more groups of, each time the humans fought with terrifying skill. They used everything as weapons, pipes, debris, their own hands. Saw break a arm and use the creature's own weapon against it. She saw dodge a blow that should have killed her and counter with a strike that crushed her enemy's windpipe. And moved through the chaos like death itself, calm, precise, unstoppable. Finally, they reached the control center. The doors were sealed. Used her command code to open them. Inside, a dozen guards stared in shock at the humans holding weapons. "Don't shoot," commanded. "They're with me." The guards lowered their weapons slowly. Handed her stolen gun to. "You'll need this more than me." Took it. Her mind was spinning. You saved my life." "Yes." "Why?" Looked at her with those cold eyes. "Because you're alive, and alive you can learn. Dead, you're just another body." She turned and walked back to join the other humans. They stood together, covered in blood and dust. But they weren't cowering. They weren't weak. Finally understood. She had been so very wrong. Humans weren't feeble at all. The riot ended 3 hours later. Security forces killed or captured all the prisoners. 12 guards died. 20 more were injured. The detention center was damaged but still functional. Commander sat in her office. Her shoulder was bandaged. The doctor said it would heal in a few days, but her mind wouldn't heal so quickly. Everything she thought she knew was wrong. She pulled up the security footage from the riot. She watched it again and again, the humans fighting, moving, killing. They weren't lucky. They weren't desperate. They were trained. Highly trained. There was a knock on her door. "Enter," she said. Walked in. She had cleaned the blood off her face. Her gray uniform was torn, but she stood straight. "You asked to see me, Commander." "Sit down." Sat in the chair across from the desk. She kept her hands folded in her lap. Studied her. "I want to see your back." "Excuse me." "Your tattoos, the marks on your back. I want to examine them properly." His expression didn't change. "Why?" "Because I need to understand." "Stand up, turn around, remove your shirt." For a moment didn't move. Then she stood and turned around. She pulled her shirt over her head. Stood and walked closer. She had seen the scans before, but seeing the marks in person was different. His entire back was covered in ink. The designs were intricate, beautiful, but also dark, sad. "Tell me what they mean," said quietly. Was silent for a long moment, then she spoke. "This one," she pointed to a mark on her left shoulder blade. It looked like a bird with broken wings. "This is for Park. He was my friend. We trained together. He died on the first day of the invasion. A bombing run hit his position. We never found his body." Looked closer. The design was detailed. Someone had spent hours creating it. "And this," she pointed to another mark, a flower surrounded by thorns. "Lee, she was an engineer, brilliant. She figured out how to disable your scout ship's shields. It only worked once, but it gave us hope. She died protecting the knowledge. The aliens tortured her for 2 days. She never talked." His voice was still calm, but heard something underneath. Pain, anger, loss. "There are dozens of marks here," said. 53 replied. "Each one is a person, someone I knew, someone I fought with, someone who died." Traced her finger near a large design on its lower back. It showed a circle of stars around a burning sun. She didn't touch the skin, but she could see the scars underneath the ink. Burns. Surgical cuts. "What are these scars?" "Shrapnel wounds. I had cybernetic implants to help me move wounded soldiers. Enhanced strength, faster reflexes. When we surrendered, they removed the implants. They said we were too dangerous with them." "You were a medic. Why did you need combat enhancements?" Turned around to face her. She put her shirt back on. "Because on Earth, being a medic meant running into battle. It meant carrying wounded soldiers under fire. It meant fighting while you healed. We didn't have the luxury of safety." Sat back down. Her mind was working fast. "Your planet surrendered after 3 months. That's what the reports say." "The reports are wrong." "Explain." Sat down again. "We fought for 2 years, 2 full years. The coalition lied in their reports. They didn't want anyone to know how long it took, how many ships they lost, how many soldiers died trying to take our planet." Felt cold. "That's impossible. Your technology was primitive." "Our technology was different," corrected. "We adapted, we learned. Every time you used a new weapon, we figured out how to counter it. We built traps. We used guerrilla tactics. We made you bleed for every city, every town, every street." "But you surrendered eventually." "Yes." Eyes met hers. "Because we were losing, slowly but certainly. Your numbers were too great, your resources too vast. We had lost 40% of our population. Our cities were ruins. Children were starving." "So you gave up?" "No." His voice became hard. "We made a choice. Our leaders negotiated a surrender. The terms were simple. We would lay down our weapons. We would become prisoners. But in exchange, you would stop the bombing, stop the killing. Let our remaining people live." Stood and walked to her window. Outside, stars glittered. "Why tell me this?" Because you called us feeble. You needed to understand what that word really means. I was wrong. Yes, you were. Turn back. The Coalition classified information about Earth. Most species don't know the real story. They just know humans surrendered quickly, that you were weak. That was part of the agreement, said. They saved face. We saved lives. Everyone got what they needed. Except you. You became prisoners. Shrugged, better to be a living prisoner than a dead hero. Dead people can't rebuild. They can't fight another day. They can't remember. Is that what the tattoos are? Memory. Yes, every mark on my body is a promise that I will never forget, that their sacrifice meant something, that one day Earth will stand again. Felt something strange, respect, fear, both at once. She walked to her computer and pulled up files. Secret files she wasn't supposed to access, but she needed to know the truth. She found combat reports, real ones, not the official versions. Battle after battle. The humans lost most of them, but they made every victory costly. A single human unit held a bridge for 3 weeks against an entire battalion. They used bombs made from civilian materials. They used the terrain. They fought until the last soldier fell. Another report showed a human suicide mission. 20 humans in small ships attacked a Coalition dreadnought. They flew into the ship's engines. The explosion destroyed the entire vessel. 3,000 Coalition soldiers died. The leader of that mission was named. Said softly, "Did you know him?" His expression cracked just for a second. Pain flashed across her face. Then it was gone. "He was my brother." "I'm sorry." "No, you're not yet, but maybe you will be." Looked at more reports. Humans fighting in tunnels, in ruins, in space. Everywhere the Coalition went, humans found a way to hurt them. And the tattoos. The reports mentioned them. Many human soldiers had these marks. Some had hundreds. "You wear your history on your skin," said. "We refuse to forget," replied. "That's what makes us dangerous, not our strength, not our weapons, our memory. We remember every wrong, every loss, every sacrifice, and we never forgive." "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact, Stood. Are we done here, Commander?" Looked at this small human female she had thought was weak, soft, defeated. She was none of those things. "Yes, you can go." Walked to the door. She stopped before leaving. "Commander, you asked why we saved you during the riot. You said I could learn." "Yes, learn this. Humans don't break. We bend. We endure. We survive. And we remember everything, every kindness and every cruelty. Choose carefully which one you want to be remembered for." She left the office. Stood alone. She looked at her computer screen, at the reports, at the truth. The galaxy thought humans were feeble. The galaxy was wrong. And that mistake might cost them everything. Couldn't sleep. She lay in her quarters staring at the ceiling. Her mind kept showing her images. Back covered in memorial marks. The humans fighting with deadly precision. The reports she had read. Everything was a lie. She got up and returned to her office. It was late. The station was quiet. Most guards were sleeping. She sat at her computer and accessed the classified database again. This time she went deeper. She used command codes she wasn't supposed to have. Codes she had stolen years ago for emergencies. This was an emergency. She found video files. Actual footage from the Earth invasion. Not the edited versions shown to the public. Real recordings from Coalition soldiers. The first video showed a human city under attack. Buildings burned, ships fired from above, and humans fought back. They used projectile weapons, primitive rockets, even vehicles loaded with explosives. One human drove a truck into a Coalition walker. The explosion destroyed both. The camera shook from the blast. The soldier recording spoke in his own language, had her computer translate. "These humans are crazy, they don't retreat. We killed 50 and more keep coming. They're fighting for every street, every building. Command says this was supposed to be an easy city. Easy. I've lost 12 squad members here." The video ended. Opened another file. This one showed a space battle. Human ships were small and fragile compared to coalition vessels, but they fought like demons. 3 human ships surrounded a coalition cruiser. They fired until their weapons melted. Then they rammed the cruiser. All 3 ships just rammed straight into it. The cruiser exploded. The humans died, but they took 500 coalition soldiers with them. Video after video, report after report, the truth became clear. Humans didn't surrender because they were weak. They surrendered because they were smart. They knew they would lose eventually, so they chose to save what they could, their children, their future. But the soldiers chose differently. They volunteered to become prisoners, to take the place of civilians who might have died. They gave up their freedom so their families could live. Found a document marked "Confidential Command Only." It was a strategic assessment written by Coalition High Command. She read it with growing horror. Human resistance exceeded all projections. Despite technological inferiority, enemy forces demonstrated unprecedented adaptability and determination. Recommended course of action: accept negotiated surrender before casualties become politically unsustainable. Current losses: 40,000 coalition soldiers, 73 ships, 200 combat vehicles. Unacceptable for a primitive world. 40,000 dead to conquer a primitive planet. The public was told that only 3,000 died. Another lie. Kept reading. She found psychological profiles of human prisoners. Most were soldiers, combat veterans, engineers who built weapons, medics who kept fighters alive. They sent their best people to prisons, kept them alive. Why? The answer came in another classified file. This one was from Coalition Intelligence. Warning: human prisoners should not be underestimated. All possess combat training. Many have specialized skills that could be dangerous if weaponized. Recommend minimal contact and maximum security. Note: Earth resistance forces still active in remote regions. Estimated strength: 200,000 fighters. They are waiting. Waiting for what? Searched for more recent intelligence reports. She found one from 2 weeks ago. Human resistance activity increasing. Multiple attacks on coalition supply lines. They are using captured weapons and learning quickly. They are also attempting to contact imprisoned soldiers. All communication must be blocked. They were still fighting, even after surrendering, even after 2 years of occupation. Leaned back in her chair, she thought about and the other prisoners. They weren't broken. They were waiting, planning, remembering. She pulled up the video footage from the riot again. She watched move, the way she fought, the way she led the others. These weren't random prisoners. They were an army, scattered across coalition prisons, waiting for something. Accessed her private messages. She found one from Coalition Command sent 3 days ago. It was marked "Secret Commanders Only." Directive: human prisoners will be transferred to Combat Conditioning Facility 7 next month. They will be processed for military service. The Coalition has decided to utilize human combat capabilities for future operations. Humans will form shock troops for assaults against the Confederation. Shock troops: that meant sending them to die in the hardest battles, using them as weapons. Felt sick. She stood and paced her office. She thought about her own people, the Empire. They were part of the Coalition. They supported this. They called humans feeble while planning to use them as slave soldiers. It was wrong. But what could she do? She was one commander, one person. If she spoke against this, she would be removed from duty, or worse. She stopped packing. She looked at her screen again. On it was a frozen image from one of the videos. His brother, just before his suicide mission. He was speaking to his team. The computer had translated his words. Humanity doesn't ask permission to survive. We take it, we earn it, we die for it, and we never ever forget those who tried to stop us. Then he flew his ship into the dreadnought. Made her decision. She accessed the communication system. She sent a message using encrypted channels. The message went to a specific location on Earth, to the Resistance. The message was simple. The prisoners are alive. They will be moved in 30 days. Location coordinates attached. One inside contact willing to help. She sent it before she could change her mind. Then she erased all evidence of the message from the system. She used every trick she knew. If anyone discovered what she had done, she would be executed as a traitor. But she couldn't stand by, not anymore. The next morning she went to cell block 7. She found sitting alone in the corner. The other humans gave them space. "I need to speak with you," said quietly. "Then speak." "Not here, medical bay. I need to check your injuries from the riot." "Understood." They walked together to the medical bay, sealed the room behind them. "I accessed the real files," said. "About Earth, about the invasion, about everything." "Waited." "You fought for 2 years. You lost 40% of your population. Your soldiers volunteered to become prisoners, and the resistance is still fighting. You weren't supposed to know that." "I know. I also know the coalition plans to use human prisoners as shock troops. They're going to send you to die in wars that aren't yours." His expression hardened. "When?" 30 days. They'll transfer you to a conditioning facility. They'll try to break you, make you obedient, turn you into weapons." "They'll fail," said simply. "I know. That's why I sent a message to your resistance. I gave them the transfer details, the route, everything they need to plan a rescue." Stared at her. For the first time she looked shocked. "Why would you do that?" "Because I was wrong about humans, and my people need to learn that before they make a fatal mistake. But they won't listen to me. They need to learn the hard way." "You're risking your life for us. Why?" Thought about all the videos she had watched, all the reports she had read, all the lies she had believed. "Because you were right," she said. "People remember everything, the good and the bad. I want to be remembered as someone who chose the right side, even if it costs me everything." Studied her for a long moment, then she nodded slowly. "What do you need from us?" "Patience. Keep being the perfect prisoners. Don't give them any reason to suspect. In 30 days, be ready." "We're always ready." They left the medical bay separately, returned to her duties, went back to the cell. But everything had changed. The countdown had begun. The days passed slowly. 29 days of waiting, 29 days of watching, kept her routine normal. She inspected the prisoners. She filed reports. She pretended nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The humans remained perfect prisoners. They worked. They obeyed. They gave no sign that anything was different. But saw it now. The way they watched the guards, the way they positioned themselves, they were always ready, always prepared to fight. On day 30, the transfer ships arrived. Stood in the docking bay. 3 large transport vessels waited. They would take the humans to the conditioning facility, to their new prison. Unless the resistance succeeded. The humans were brought in chains, wrist restraints, ankle restraints. The guards were taking no chances after the riot. Watch walk past. Their eyes met for just a second. The expression was calm, ready. "Load them up," the transport captain ordered. He was alike. He didn't look at the humans like they were people, just cargo. The humans were led onto the first ship. 30 prisoners per ship, 90 total. Had her hand on her weapon. She had made her choice. Now she had to follow through. The loading took 20 minutes. Then the transport captain sealed the doors. "We'll be back for more prisoners next month," he told. "Command wants all humans transferred within 6 months." "Understood," she said. The ships began their departure sequence. Watched them lift off. They moved through the docking bay doors into space. Then she waited. Her communicator crackled. "Commander, we're detecting multiple ships approaching fast. Unknown signatures." "Here it comes." "Sound the alarm," ordered. "Battle stations." The detention center came alive. Guards ran to defensive positions, weapons charged, shields activated, but had made sure certain systems would fail. Systems that controlled the cell blocks, systems that monitored internal security. In cell block 7, the remaining human prisoners stood as their cell doors opened. They had been waiting for this. "Let them out. Move fast. Grab whatever weapons you can. We need to secure the docking bay." The humans ran through corridors. They moved like shadows. They knew the station layout, had made sure they had access to the maps. Outside, the resistance ships attacked. They were small and fast, human-made vessels that darted between the station's defenses. The coalition guards fired back. Explosions lit up space. One of the transport ships carrying human prisoners took damage. Its shields flickered. Then human fighters surrounded it, protected it. Inside the station, made her way to the command center. She needed to control what the other commanders saw, what information they had. She arrived to find chaos. Screens showed the battle outside. Commanders shouted orders. "The humans are escaping their cells," one officer yelled. "Lock down all sectors," another ordered. "Stepped forward. I'll handle internal security. You focus on the external threat." She took control of the security console. She made it look like she was trying to stop the humans, but really she was opening paths for them, disabling defenses. The human resistance ships fired on the station, but they were careful, precise. They targeted weapons and shields, not life support, not the sections where prisoners were kept. They were trying to save people, not kill them. One transport ship broke free, then another. The third was still locked in the docking bay. The resistance ships tried to cover it, but coalition fighters were swarming. Inside the station, and the freed humans reached the docking bay. They found guards blocking the way. "Stand down," the guard captain ordered. "You will return to your cells." "Didn't stop. We're leaving. You can let us go or we go through you." The guards opened fire. The humans scattered. They used cover. They fought back with stolen weapons and bare hands. It was brutal, fast. The guards had better weapons, but the humans had nothing to lose. Took a shot to the leg. He kept fighting. Grabbed a guard's weapon and used it against him. Another human, tackled a guard twice his size. The battle raged for minutes that felt like hours. In the command center, watched. She saw the humans fighting, dying, winning. She made her final choice. She walked to the main control panel. She entered her command codes. She opened the docking bay doors. "What are you doing?" another commander shouted. Didn't answer. She opened all the doors, every cell block, every detention area. Hundreds of prisoners from dozens of species flooded into the corridors. Then she sealed the command center door from outside and destroyed the controls. "Commander," they pounded on the door. "This is treason." She was already running toward the docking bay, running toward the humans. She found them at the last transport ship. They were loading wounded onto it, was being carried by two others. His leg was bleeding badly. Saw approaching, she raised her weapon. "Wait," shouted, "I'm the one who helped you." Lowered her weapon slowly. "Prove it." Tossed her weapon aside. "I opened the cells. I sealed the commanders in. I sent you the information about the transfer. I'm the inside contact." "Why should we trust you?" "Because I'm coming with you." Pulled off her command insignia. "I can't stay here. They know what I did. I'm a traitor now." Stared at her, then she made a decision. "Get on the ship. We'll sort this out later. Move." They ran onto the transport. The bay doors were open. Space waited beyond. The ship lifted off. Coalition fighters tried to stop it, but the resistance ships formed a protective screen. They fired. They covered the retreat. The transport accelerated. Behind them, the detention center grew smaller. They escaped. The ship flew for 3 days. They met up with the resistance fleet hiding in an asteroid field. The freed prisoners were distributed among different ships. Medical teams treated the wounded. Was kept under guard. She understood. She was still the enemy until they decided otherwise. On the 4th day, came to see her. "We checked your story," said. "We confirmed you sent the messages. You helped us escape. You saved lives. What happens now?" "That depends. Why did you do it, really?" Thought about all the videos she had watched, all the lies she had believed. "Because I learned the truth. And once I knew, I couldn't pretend anymore. Humans aren't feeble. You're survivors. You're fighters. You're going to win eventually. And I wanted to be on the right side when that happens." Nodded slowly. "The Coalition will hunt you, you know that." "I know. You can't go home. You're branded a traitor." "I know that too." "Then what will you do?" Looked at her hands. Her 4 hands that could never belong to the Coalition again. "I don't know. Help however I can, I suppose, until you decide to kill me or trust me." "We won't kill you," said. "You've earned better than that." She pulled out a small device. It looked like a pen with a needle at the end. "Hold out your arm." "What is this?" Trust. Extended her arm, pressed the device against her skin. It hurt. The needle moved quickly, creating a pattern. When finished, looked at her arm. There was a fresh mark, a tattoo. It showed a symbol in script, her own name. "What does this mean?" she asked. "It means you're remembered," said. "Humans mark our skin with the names of people who matter, the good and the bad. You chose to be good. So I'm marking you as an ally, as someone who helped when it mattered." Touched the mark, it was still sore, but it felt right. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. The war isn't over. The Coalition still occupies Earth. They still have thousands of human prisoners. And now they know we're organizing, fighting back. It's going to get worse before it gets better." "I understand." Stood, "The Resistance leadership wants to meet you. They have questions, but I told them you're trustworthy. That means something." She walked to the door, then stopped. "Commander, you asked me once why we saved you during the riot, why we protected you. You said I could learn." "Yes, and you did. You learned the most important lesson. Humans remember everything, every kindness and every cruelty, every friend and every enemy." She touched her own back where 53 names were marked. "You're on this skin now too, not on my back with the dead, but here." She touched her shoulder where his name was. "With the living, with the allies, with the people worth saving." "What if I disappoint you? What if I make mistakes?" Smiled. It was a small smile, but genuine. "Then I'll add more ink. Humans don't expect perfection. We expect effort. We expect truth. We expect people to choose a side and stick with it." She left alone with her thoughts. Looked at the mark on her arm again. Her name in her own language, marked on her skin by a human hand. She had called them feeble. She had been so wrong. Humans weren't feeble. They were unbreakable. They endured everything. They remembered everything. They forgave nothing unless you earned it. But if you stood with them, if you fought beside them, they marked you as their own. Understood now. The tattoos weren't just memory. They were promises, records, history written on skin that couldn't be erased or forgotten. And now she was part of that history. She touched the mark one more time. It hurt, but pain meant healing, and healing meant hope. Outside the window, stars glittered in the darkness. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. The humans would return home someday. They would rebuild. They would remember. And would be there to help them. Because humans remembered everything, the bad and the good. And she had chosen to be good.